ecosystem and scaling this ecosystem. So we have from SIDBI, the chairman himself with us to deliver a keynote. I would like to invite on stage Shri Ramann, Chairman, Small Industries Development Bank of India, SIDBI, to be on stage with us to deliver a keynote address to the audience. Thank you so much, sir.
A very good evening to all of you. So I was just asking about the funding winter, and I was told that it's quite cold out there. So it's probably another cycle that we are seeing. We've seen a few of these cycles before, but it just surprises me that even the numbers seem to have dropped. So we're talking about, I think, 32 billion coming down to that's what, 35 billion coming down to 24 billion between the years of 21 and 22. The only sort of difference which I detect is that somehow the drawdowns from the SIDBI fund of funds seem to be increasing. So, I just can't sort of relate to it. It's obviously much smaller than the numbers that I just spoke about. But I think the good news is really that we are finding the proposals coming through. The pipeline is certainly there. As I said, the drawdowns are happening. So there's been a fairly large drawdown this year of about 900 crores. The total drawdown is a little over 4,000 crores, and we have committed somewhere reaching 9,000 out of the 10,000 crores. Some money is, of course, coming back. And the rate of return of the money that has come back, however small it is, and therefore we shouldn't get overexcited, but it's somewhere around 2.8x. So all in all, numbers good. The other day we had an advisory board meeting or whatever, some such meeting on the SRI fund. And the SRI fund was also talking about a fairly decent uptake. I think the commitments of the SRI fund have crossed 5,000 crores. Of course, draws are extremely limited on the SRI fund. So I don't know whether the SRI fund is sort of catching a cold and the SIDBI fund is not, but it's something, I think, a time when we should probably just reflect over what's happening. The industry has gained tremendous traction, and I honestly believe that the way the industry has matured, the way all of you have come in, deployed the funds, are watching over the investee companies much like a mother hen would do. And that's very important. I think it's really critical that we keep our eye on the ball, and I'm sure all of you are extremely diligent in your methodologies and processes as fund managers. But I think it's also time to sort of inject the bit of reality that sort of hit us. And I think all of us are, somewhere a little squeamish, somewhere we don't want to talk about it. There is an elephant in the room, and I think, it's probably for me to call it out. And we really need to sort of point a finger at those who are messing up the party. We all have put in funds, due diligence notwithstanding. We do find that certain investments go down the tube. Why they go down the tube is really important. So the recent episode of a particular investee company going belly up and saying that, listen, there is a misrepresentation of fact, there is a fraud, that's something which jars. And my only point to all of you is, as a community, you have become, in a sense, a community representation, which seems to be now going, sort of unquestioned or unpunished, I think that's when the regulator might just wake up and say, listen, something needs to be done. This entire industry is probably not, responsible enough, and therefore let me intervene. And we've seen that happen before. We've seen it happen in what was a very unregulated space of the microfinance industry, which was really a set of people who were not regulated but doing very good work at the bottom of the pyramid. And events happened which then led to a huge shakeout, and a huge dose of regulation came in. Maybe that regulation was probably expected, but let me even take you back to the whole point of how way back in the 90s we used to have collective investment funds, before the term collective investment fund became part of regulation. So there were a few companies that took money from investors. They were, of course, regular companies. They were probably under some, state regulation. They were, taking defense under some particular state regulation. But there was a lot of money collected from around the country. And these collective investment funds, without formally calling them that, ended up misusing a lot of that funds. And that's when SEBI sort of came in and the whole CIS regulation came into being. And that CIS regulation, in a way, the whole birth of the AIF regulations has its beginnings within what was known as the CIS regulations and the problems that we saw within the CIS regulations. So when the AIFs came in, I clearly remember, I was in SEBI in those years, and it was meant to be a registration of AIFs. It wasn't meant to be a regulation. And a simple register and operate was really what was the mantra. When that registration moved into regulation, it's probably sometime after I sort of left SEBI, but the fact remains that that need to regulate does not go away. That need to regulate is inherent in the powers of any authority. And therefore, regulation ends up becoming deeper and deeper. And the minute there is a vacuum, you will be, let me assure you that regulation will walk into that vacuum. So the short point I'm really making is that somewhere it would be very good to see the IVCA, through its, its executive members, make a statement, come out with some sort of plan, come out with some, path forward, saying this is how we will deal with entities that have done a fraud. Of course, fraud is an IPC offense. Anybody can go down that route also. But the fact is that in this industry, we know that there will be, out of 100 companies, maybe 30 or 40 companies might go belly up. But if they were to go belly up because an idea went wrong or an execution was not in place, that's something that we are here to live with, and we, despite the best of our own efforts, it might just happen. But we definitely do not want to be that director sitting on the board which ends up with an accusation of misrepresentation which is then found to be true. And that really has its own set of consequences for such people who would be on the boards of such companies. So it's really about sort of a quick reflection, an intense reflection, but as a body, as a self-regulatory organization, what will IVCA look at it? How does it look at it? What will it do? I think that's a very important point. But getting back to the fact that where do we move ahead from here? We are, as I said, reaching the end of our journey of 10,000 crores, and we will obviously be, getting some returns back. We will be putting those returns back into the market. But is there a path forward? Is there something that the IVCA would like to do in taking forward the great movement that's happened? And all said and done, the sort of startup economy in India has really been talked about. The world is looking at it, and it's led to several innovative creations, a lot of, very, very good customer-centric services that have come through. So how do we take this forward? How do we engage with the authorities? Are we looking at bringing out something more towards the seed stage? Is it that we just want another fund of funds to be brought out? These are discussions, I think, which we need to have. So we have, all in all, a government that's highly responsive. It's looking keenly at helping businesses to grow in whichever way is possible. There's an environment for growth within the country, even amongst some of the states, amongst some states that were probably not looked at by many of you in this room in the past, but there's been a huge progress in a few states in terms of governance, in terms of the kind of services, the investor-friendly environment that they're trying to create. And I'm not alluding to the vast sort of mega events of invest in my state. Those are events that would anyway be happening, but on the ground, in my own travels to a few states, I found that the states are genuinely interested in helping their businesses. And where I come from, of course, is the MSME space. And that's a space which no state government is leaving any stone unturned in order to help that go forward. So from concepts of what is known as the credit guarantee scheme, which is run for the MSMEs, recently it got a huge infusion of another 9,000 crores in the budget. Now that's a scheme which a lot of state governments are very happy to take forward, because this entire range of companies where investments are up to 50 crores and turnovers are less than 100 crores. Now that's a huge space where there's an opportunity to provide additional credit guarantee for those companies. Now, alongside an equity investment, we're also talking about the ability to provide debt. A lot of banks, even today, are not in a position within their straitjacket to be able to provide debt to such companies. So SIDBI has gone into what is known as venture debt. It's very small beginnings, but I think we've done about 4 investments. And this we are doing with, in fact, the partnership that has grown amongst all of you. So we've partnered with a few of the funds that we have supported, and we've been able to get leads from those funds as to which are those companies where there is a need for a debt, which the banks probably cannot provide. And that's something which we are taking forward in a larger way. I'm inviting all of you to come forward if you have a need to be able to support your companies with infusion of debt. Please get in touch with our team. It's the same team that does the fund of funds team, which is doing the venture debt. But what else can we do? I mean, we've talked a lot about seed stage investing. We've talked to several incubators around the country. Whether the incubation and seed stage is something that we need to grow more, we need to take that up in a bigger way, or is there a consolidation that is expected to happen? Because I was told that there are over 200 incubators in this country, and we probably don't know what's happening amongst them. But this all adds up to the startup space. And I think that's really what I think I'm trying to tempt all of you to try and think of and act. Because when you are already straddling the space of the startups where you're talking about, Series A and on upwards, are you also willing to look at coming into the early stage a little more easily? And that's a question which I think we should discuss and take forward. With regard to our own operations, we were very happy to get more and more comments from all of you, but whatever attempts we made to try and get a group of you together, we probably did not manage that. And I only take away the interesting inference that probably things are going very, very smoothly. Our processes are in place, and therefore there's really no need for any further dialogue. So that's great news if that's the case. But of course, as all of you know, we are here for taking forward this entire effort. And if there are any other and further changes and modifications that we need to do, I think we'll be happy to do that. But I think contracting and the legal documents is still probably a bit of an area, I'm told, where we struggle. We've made it very clear that funds which do not accept the model document which has been created and was created with the help of all of you about, I think, over 12 months ago, then we would find it very difficult to start, sort of dotting the I's and crossing the T's in a different way, because we're very happy with the way the agreement has come out. But if there are some sort of, speed breakers in that, do let me know. And of course, the need to draw down funds, winter or not, I think it's important that we continue to keep the pressure. We know that, you are the best judge of how much funds are needed by a particular company at which point of time. But we do not want to have funds that are sanctioned money or are given a sanction and then do not come back at all for drawals. So we've, at least, I've told the team very clearly that we do not want to, keep our, sanctioned amounts idle. There are enough other funds in the wings which are waiting for the VCIC to happen and therefore are looking for a sanction of funds. So our processes are going to continue, and therefore, if we get a little tougher, that's probably the way it's going to be. But I think I'll stop there. Thank you very much for giving me a patient hearing. See you.
Thank you so much, sir, for the keynote address. We move on to our next panel on the theme line of fund of funds ecosystem. So we have some